someone says something. It's small. A tone, a look, a comment. But something inside you ignites. You feel it in your chest, tight. Your jaw clenched. Your thoughts spiraling. You tell yourself not to react, but you already are. And by the time you catch it, you've said something you regret, or you've shut down completely, or you've been thinking about it for hours, long after the moment has passed. Why? Why can't you let things go? Why does someone else's energy hijack yours? Why do their words control your emotions, even when you know they shouldn't? Carl Jung had a brutal answer. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But most people don't want to understand. They want control. They want peace. They want to be unbothered, immune to judgment, rejection, or attack. So they chase self-help hacks. Breathe in, breathe out, detach, ignore, block, meditate, fake calm until it crumbles under pressure. But none of it lasts. Because you're not triggered by the other person. You're triggered by something within. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I get angry so easily? Or, why do certain people just ruin my whole day? Like this video. Because this isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming free. And if you've ever wished for peace so deep that no one's chaos could reach it, subscribe. Because this journey isn't about them. It's about you. Jung believed that every person you meet reflects something buried inside you. And anger? Anger is a reaction to exposure. Someone touched a nerve. Not because they're powerful, but because they touched something you've been avoiding. Your shadow. You don't get angry when someone insults a part of you you've accepted. You get angry when they hit something fragile, unconscious, unclaimed, unloved. Maybe they made you feel small. Not because you are, but because part of you still believes you are. Maybe they ignored you. And suddenly, the wound of being unseen, maybe since childhood, flares up like fire. That's not their fault. That's a signal. Anger is a message, not a problem. It's not about suppression. It's about translation. What part of me did this moment wake up? Why did I need them to see me? Why did I feel the urge to defend? Because when you dig underneath the reaction, you'll find a story. And most of the time, it's not even about the person in front of you. Jung believed we're all haunted by complexes, emotional patterns created from our past. And every time you're triggered, you're not reacting to now. You're reacting to then. To the parent who didn't hear you. To the friend who betrayed you. To the moment you learned that silence was safer than truth. So now, you defend. Or shut down. Or burn bridges to protect the part of you that was never safe. And here's the truth that hurts. Most people don't want peace. They want control over the outside world, so they never have to feel the chaos inside. But control isn't peace. Control is anxiety, with better PR. Jung knew that real peace doesn't come from avoiding difficult people. It comes from confronting the part of you that reacts to them. And when you understand that, anger doesn't own you anymore. It becomes information. It becomes your invitation. So the next time someone bothers you, ask, what did they awaken inside me? Where have I felt this before? What story am I telling myself in this moment? Because the truth is, No one has the power to make you angry. They only have the power to show you where your healing lives. You think it's them. Their tone, their timing, the way they talk to you, like you don't matter, the way they always interrupt, the way they make everything feel like a competition. But Carl Jung would stop you right there. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You're not just being bothered, you're being mirrored. The reason certain people drive you crazy isn't because they're evil. It's because they're reflecting something inside you that you haven't fully owned. Maybe you can't stand arrogance, because deep down, you were punished for confidence. Maybe you're irritated by people who talk too much, because you were never allowed to speak freely. Maybe people who seem emotionally detached get under your skin, because you're afraid of your own emotional dependence. The truth is brutal. You're not reacting to them. You're reacting to the part of you that you see in them, the part you've disowned. This is what Jung meant by the shadow. It's the version of you were told was too much, too loud, too weak, too sensitive, too selfish, too needy. So you locked it away, pretended it didn't exist, built a persona that did the opposite: quiet, logical, helpful, accommodating. But the shadow doesn't die. It just hides. And when you meet someone who lives out the part you've buried, rage rises. Let's say you value emotional intelligence. You've worked hard to stay calm, listen, breathe, be mature. Then someone shows up, entitled, loud, dramatic, out of control. Instant anger. But here's the twist. It's not them you hate. It's what they awaken in you. The memory of when you were out of control, or punished for being emotional, or made to feel embarrassed for taking up space. Anger is unprocessed memory. And the people who trigger you most are walking flashbacks. You think you're angry at this person. But really, you're angry at a younger version of yourself, the one who was never allowed to exist. Jung didn't teach us to avoid these people. He taught us to study our reaction to them. Because your reaction is the real classroom. And when you stop blaming, you start awakening. You realize the reason you feel powerless around certain people is because you gave them the power to validate your unhealed parts. The reason you feel rejected isn't because they said no. It's because your identity was built on being accepted. The reason you get defensive is because deep down, you still believe your worth is up for debate. So, how do you master this? You stop reacting and start reflecting. You ask, what is this trying to teach me about myself? Where have I felt this before? Am I angry because they're wrong, or because they touched something raw? Because emotional mastery isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming transparent to yourself. Jung believed that the shadow wasn't something to destroy. It was something to integrate. And integration means this. When someone triggers you, you get curious. When someone disrespects you, you set a boundary without hate. When someone leaves you, you let them go without turning it into a story about your worth. That's power. Not the power to control others, but the power to stay centered, no matter what they do. Imagine this. You're in a room with someone who used to trigger you. Same tone, same arrogance, same emotional chaos. But this time, you don't flinch. You don't defend. You don't collapse. You see them clearly. But more importantly, you see yourself clearly. And the fire that used to consume you, it's gone. Not because you don't care, but because you're not projecting anymore. You've made peace with the parts of you they used to activate. And now, they have no power. This is what Jung called individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. You can't become whole if you're at war with your own reflection. But the moment you stop blaming the mirror, you start healing the image. And in that process, anger becomes wisdom. Imagine this. You walk into a room. People talk over you. Someone makes a sarcastic remark. Someone else gives you that look, the one that always used to set your blood on fire. But this time, nothing. No tension, no reaction, no spiral. You notice it, but you don't absorb it. You're not cold. You're not suppressing. You're just free. This is what Carl Jung meant by integration. Most people think peace is the absence of emotion. They confuse numbness with power. But Jung believed real peace is not about becoming untouchable on the outside. It's about owning what's inside so completely, so consciously, that nothing out there has leverage anymore. You want to stop getting angry? You want to stop feeling bothered, drained, thrown off by people's moods, words, opinions? Then here's the truth. You can't control the world, but you can stop making the world responsible for your self-worth. Anger is just a signal, not a sin, not a flaw. It's a flare from your shadow, saying, you gave them too much power. And the way to take that power back is not through control, but through integration. So what does that mean? Integration is when you stop splitting your identity. Stop being the nice one while burying your rage. Stop being the strong one while hiding your grief. Stop being the calm one while swallowing chaos. It means allowing the truth of who you are to take up space. Not publicly, not performatively, but internally. It's when you no longer need the world to reflect your value, because you've seen your own reflection, and you didn't flinch. You want to be unbothered? Start by meeting the version of yourself that you've been avoiding, the one who gets jealous, the one who wants validation, the one who feels small, insecure, reactive, rageful, afraid. And instead of judging it, hold it. Not fix, not shame. Just hold. Jung believed this was the birthplace of true selfhood. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. What makes you emotionally untouchable is not that you have no wounds. It's that your wounds don't own you. Someone can mock you, but you've already made peace with your flaws. Someone can ignore you, but you no longer confuse attention with love. Someone can leave, but you don't collapse because you never left yourself. Most people want emotional control. They want to never feel again. They want to shut it down. They want to be above it all. But that's not power. That's fear in a mask. Real emotional power is when you can feel everything without becoming it. You can feel anger, but respond with clarity. You can feel triggered, but stay grounded. You can feel misunderstood, but no longer need to be explained. That's when you become untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're real. And reality doesn't flinch. So how do you get there? You stop asking, why are they like that? And you start asking, why does this still move me? Every trigger is a teacher. Every reaction is a map. Every moment of anger is a door. And on the other side is the part of you waiting to be seen. People will always be people. Some kind, some cruel, some healing, some toxic. But once you've met your shadow, no one else gets to use it against you. You own your story. You own your reactions. You own your boundaries. And when you do, you stop defending. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You become still, like a mountain, unbothered by the wind. There's a moment when the world tries to provoke you, and you don't move. Not because you're passive, not because you're numb, but because you're finally free. That's the moment Jung was pointing toward. The moment you've moved beyond emotional survival and stepped into psychological sovereignty. Let's be clear. This isn't about indifference. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming centered in who you are so that no one else can rewrite you with their noise. That's the power you've been chasing. And it doesn't come from avoiding triggers. It comes from disarming them. You're no longer angry because you don't outsource your identity anymore. They don't respond. You stay grounded. They mock you. You don't shrink. They forget you. You remember yourself. They misunderstand you. You stop trying to explain what's already whole. You don't react because you don't require anything from them. Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And when you choose to become whole, no one gets to define you again. Not by praise, not by insult, not by silence. Here's where it gets real. The very people who used to trigger you, they'll start to feel different. Not because they've changed, but because you've reclaimed the part of you they once activated. That ex who once made you feel invisible. Now, they're just a person. That friend who talks over you. You no longer feel silenced because you no longer need permission to speak. That coworker who undermines you, they lose their sting because their opinion doesn't anchor your self-respect. You used to live in response. Now, you live in relationship with yourself. And once you do that, you're no longer reactive. You're responsible, responsive, rooted. You're no longer trying to protect your image because you've made peace with your reality. Carl Jung didn't promise happiness. He promised wholeness. And wholeness means your anger isn't a problem. It's a pointer. Your discomfort isn't failure. It's feedback. Your triggers aren't enemies. They're messengers. And once you listen, really listen, they stop yelling. People will still judge you, still project, still misunderstand. But none of that sticks because you're no longer shaped by their version of you. You've built something stronger, a self that doesn't need to be managed, a self that doesn't need to be validated, a self that no longer takes things personally because nothing personal can reach someone who knows who they are. That is the final freedom, not silence, but stillness, not ignorance, but awareness, not dominance, but integration. You can walk into any room, see any face, hear any words, and still remain untouched, not because you built walls, but because you no longer have leaks. Your boundaries are sacred. Your energy is yours again. And your peace is not a performance. It's the truth. What if the people who hurt you were never the enemy? What if the words that stung the tones that pierced, the judgments that burned through your chest, were all just mirrors, not of who you are, but of who you've forgotten to be. Carl Jung didn't just study the mind. He studied the soul's quiet unraveling, the slow collapse of identity when we base our worth on external reflections. And he found something terrifying and beautiful. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You thought the anger came from them, their ignorance, their coldness, their tone, but it wasn't them. It was your unconscious, pulling you back into the wound again and again, until you finally looked at it, until you finally owned it. That's the paradox. You stop being triggered not when people get kinder, but when you stop borrowing your identity from their behavior. The moment you say, I am not your perception of me. I am not your approval or rejection. I am not your silence or your praise. That's the moment you stop flinching, stop shrinking, stop over-explaining. That's the moment you come home. Because every time someone triggered you, they weren't showing you your limits. They were showing you your gaps, the places inside that were still fragile, still defined by survival, still shaped by stories that were never yours. You thought strength meant not reacting, that if you could just be calm enough, quiet enough, emotionally still enough, no one could get to you. But that's not peace. That's fear. With good posture. Real peace? It's when someone lashes out at you and you stay rooted, not because you're numb, but because you see through it. You see their pain. You see your old wound. And you don't get pulled into either. That's the final realization. You're not here to defend yourself from the world. You're here to meet yourself through the world. Every argument, every trigger, every passive-aggressive silence, every person who made you question your worth, they were never here to break you. They were here to bring you back. Because now, you don't need them to get it. You don't need closure. You don't need revenge. You don't need to be proven right. You've already chosen yourself. And once you do that, nothing else sticks. You walk through life with a different presence, not cold, not guarded, but clear. You can smile at people who once hurt you, not because it didn't matter, but because you made peace with what it awoke in you. You stop fearing rejection, because you no longer reject yourself. You stop chasing validation, because your worth is no longer outsourced. You stop overthinking every interaction, because your center is no longer up for negotiation. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, becoming the person you were always meant to be, once you stop becoming what the world rewards. And when you get there, you don't get angry. You get still. You don't get reactive. You get present. You don't carry grudges. You carry clarity. So if you're still watching, if this hits something buried inside you, know this: the fact that you've been triggered means you're alive. It means you're ready. You're not weak for feeling. You're powerful for facing it. Because most people will never do this work. They'll spend their whole lives blaming others for the mirror. And they'll die without ever seeing who they truly were. But you're here. And that means you're changing. So now, the real question is, What kind of person do you become when nothing outside of you gets to control who you are anymore? What happens when you stop hiding behind your calm and build your peace from truth instead? If this video helped you find that question, like it so someone else sees it when they need it most, and if you're ready to stop being controlled by noise, subscribe. Because here, we don't numb, we don't run. We look at the shadow and integrate it, one truth at a time. And if this video hit you where it hurts, comment below. I'm not reactive, I'm rooted. Let them see it. Let yourself feel it. Because now, no one gets to decide your power but you.